as a Mickey D's trying to. She's a fast mama, quick as any Mickey D's trying to. She gonna make a super size. Yeah, fool. Yep, she calls me a big man, and I call her my Chick-fil-A. She calls me a big man, and I call her my little Chick-fil-A. Once you've had a fast mama, fella, you know you ain't gonna be the thing. She's a fast mama, quick as a Mickey D's trying to. She's a fast mama, quick as any Mickey D's trying to. Yes, you make a super size. Yeah, fool. Out of you. Little boy, gonna cry, but I can't say goodbye. Just keep on passing, only when I dream. Yeah, dream. Yeah, I want a bad girl. Honey, I'm not ashamed. March on, march on, march on. Hey, march on. We got the soldier on.
Welcome to Season 2, Episode 7 of The Buzz with yours truly, Momma T. We've got a great show for you tonight. We've got keyboardist Keyez Williams, and we have DJ Ken Heath. First, we're going to hear a word from Grand Forks Best Source. Today's episode is sponsored in part by Grand Forks Best Source. They're a cutting-edge local media broadcasting studio with captivating shows, on-location event coverage, and unparalleled advertising opportunities. Grand Forks Best Source has become a haven for podcasters like me seeking to bring their visions alive. If you're a podcaster looking for studio or platform, or a local business seeking to advertise, go ahead and email Paul at local@gfbestsource.com. You can call him at 701-740-9337, or you can go to their website that's listed on your screen there, gfbestsource.com. Tell them Momma T sent you.
March on, march on, march on. Hey, march on. We got the soldier on.
Well, hello there, Mr. Williams. It's been a long time. How are you?
It has been a while. How are you?
Oh, I've been better, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I think it was
Yeah.
August last year we saw each other last.
Yep, August of last year.
Why don't you
Oh
tell
yeah.
everybody a little bit about how we met, maybe?
Oh, we met through George Moye and Alan Kirk, and came up for a gig with Little Bobby. And you were out of town the first night that we played there at the bar.
Yeah.
Um, but had a memorable night and heard so much about you. And of course, everybody said that I needed to meet you. And then we met and found out about, the Army history and, just being vets. We just hit it off and been like a sis. And
Yep.
yeah. And we made some magical music that weekend.
Oh
It
yes,
was
definitely.
phenomenal.
And
Yeah.
those fingers of yours, they can just fly on that keyboard, man. I tell you what. Almost
Oh yeah.
I gotta say, comparable to Uncle Polly, Sweet Polly T. I don't know. You know
Uh-huh.
who Paul Test is? He's one of my regular viewers on the show, so I figured I better.
Oh,
Uh-oh. Looks like we lost him again. Um, I'm guessing he maybe has a bad connection or something. We lost him once already, but Keyez Williams is a keyboardist with the Ryte Vybe Trybe. Oh, here he is again.
yeah.
What are you
There's
doing
something
now?
going on. So the Ryte Vybe Tribe is a band that I have. It's kind of like intermittent pieces. I have a couple of drummers, just because everybody has their own, lives and kids and family and whatnot. And so you can catch me with, several sects of it, I guess. But Mike Rose, Gage Schmidt, there's a new singer that she's been joining, Annalena, and Alex Snellman. I got to make sure I say his name right. But yeah, and then there's a young guy, Donovan, that I met through Dr. Funk and Captain Kirk. So kind of taking their same path and taking young musicians and you know teaching them the ins and outs of the industry. So guess I'm an OG now.
That's that's awesome though. No, that's the
Oh,
whole reason I do this. Bobby got me started with this podcast because he wanted a clean show. I'm also on another podcast called Renegade Radio, and that's
okay.
there's a lot of swearing and cussing and drinking and whatnot on that show. This one, he had me start so that we could get the word out about musicians and so we could keep a clean rating so we can get it out to the youth out there so they
Yeah.
can learn about the industry and learn about how to get into this.
Right.
So tell me about growing up? Where did you grow up?
Oh, I grew up in South Minneapolis, and my mother had me in church. From I guess I just missed being born in church, the way I hear it. But played drums ever since I was like, one and a half. Even before that, I would beat on pots and pans and started playing for her choir at the church. And behind the scenes, she would always sit me at the piano and, she would sing the parts and just tell me to play what notes. So I kind of heard phrasing from my, earliest times and would just pick out things. But I never really played the piano until like 16, 17 in public. And so, yeah, played drums. Thought I was going to be a drummer and a drummer named Keyez.
That's funny. That Bobby started out on drums too. That's hilarious. He didn't end up
Oh,
on keys,
man.
obviously.
No, he didn't. But
So, mom
yeah.
was
And
your biggest.
oh, yeah. My late mother, she, it'll be 9 years on Wednesday. Um, she was always my biggest supporter in music and biggest encourager. And it's funny because she was, you ever hear those singers with the real heavy vibrato? And
Yeah.
I just did not like my mom's voice. But she made just like, I was very fortunate to hear some of the best, music that was, I mean, honestly considered funk and but because she was in church for so long, it was her church music. So that always kind of kept me open to what kind of music, should be played or shouldn't be played. And, there's a lot of parameters that churches put on, unfortunately, that keep musicians from going to church or even staying with the church, because there's a lot of musicians, as we know, that, played in church and still play in church. But the freedom sometimes that you have to share your gift is why a lot of us are out here, and why we know each other, why there's such a big network, or I should say family, um, here in Minnesota, even across the world. There's a lot of us that go all over the world on tours and stuff. So yeah, it's cool when you can see somebody, on a Monday at Shaw's, and then see that they're going to Europe and back and forth, and it's wonderful, and
Oh,
especially,
yeah.
um, yeah, go ahead.
Matthew Mwangai.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's
I had
playing
him.
with Bernard
I
Allison.
had him on the show a few months ago. That kid's going places,
Man, that kid can play whatever he wants to play.
right?
Yeah,
So
he's
tell me about
phenomenal on
some of your
guitar.
early work, some of your earlier bands.
Oh, well, I was in DC for a while, and out there I did more hip hop and rap, more so production behind the scenes. I was working with this group called the Embassy Click, um, and then I kind of moved over to uh, kind of a conglomerate of producers that we called ourselves the Essentials. And we started working with a lot of the artists, such as Odyssey or Kev Brown. Um, I know I'm just throwing out names of East Coast hip hop, but the uniqueness of me being a musician, um, I never sampled, where there were all these other producers that had to get loops or buy sounds and all kinds of things, and I would just sit at a keyboard, and whatever sound I thought should be in the track, I would make that sound out of the keyboard. And so the name Keyez really stuck, um, in my, I'll say, late teens, when I started producing, on the side in the Marines, and like every rapper out there wanted to get a track. So made a nice little, chunk of change on the side, and decided that that was something that I really wanted to get into. And so I did it part time for a long time, and that's still like my favorite part of being a musician, because I don't have to worry about. I mean, I'm sitting at my home studio right now with two keyboards and all kinds of stuff, and it's just, yeah, it's just a wonderful way to live.
Did you want to talk about the Marines at all and how the military shaped who you are today?
Yeah, the Marine Corps was pretty much culture shock for me. I had two very staunch contrast instances of culture shock. The first time was when my mom felt that South Minneapolis was getting a little too rough in the early '90s. She uprooted us after my freshman year at South High and took us to Duluth, and that was the first, time that there was just culture shock. And then in Duluth, uh, kids are kids, so I was cooling and everything, doing my music, and ended up getting somebody pregnant my senior year. And so my my father was like, "Oh yeah, the Marine Corps is where you're going to get the discipline." And I, it was like, I think 3 or 4 days after I graduated high school, I was going, to boot camp, and I'm standing on those yellow footprints. But it was one of the best decisions I honestly was just getting out of Minnesota, you know, but definitely provided a way to, you know, to take care of my child. And it opened up so many other doors that I could honestly say that led to the place where I'm at now, where I'm retired from doing work other than this music. And so yeah, and then after the Marine Corps, well, in the Marine Corps, I wanted to be, you know, the gung ho kind of guy who was just like, you know, that guy. And I got shipped to Quantico. So I got stuck at an officer's base. And with all the training they gave me, they told me that I could either pick up trash for about 9 to 10 hours a day, or I could reclass and find another field. And so I just picked logistics, and they sent me to Fort Eustis for like 6 months. And then I went to the Naval Shipyard in Norfolk for another month and learned transportation and logistics and everything. And then when I got back to Quantico, they put me in, they call it TMO, Transportation Management Office. And so I bounced around in different fields. I worked in the freight, and then I learned passenger travel. And then there was household goods, where, you know, the service members that would come in to base, um, if they had a Diddy move, we would do the paperwork and the reimbursement, or we would set up or arrange the moves with the movers. And so I thought it was a cool job. I did that. It was cush. I did music part time, and then I got hired at a studio, and it was my dream come true. And 2 months after they hired me, they went bankrupt. And Momma T,
Through
I
no
promise
fault
you.
of yours, of course.
You say
There's no
what?
correlation between hiring and going out of business.
It was like, okay. And just because I was so proud, I went to the Army instead of the Marine Corps. That's literally why I was in the Army and the Marine Corps. I was like, yeah, I don't want to do, you know, transportation anymore. And so I go to the Army. You know, you hear that if you were in the Marine Corps, you don't have to go to boot camp for any other branch of service. It is true. And they sent me to Fort Benning for, I think, 3 weeks to get acclimated to the difference in like marching and like the first time I was in a formation, and I think we were being marched to the DFAC, and they were, you know, the sergeant or whoever was calling cadence, and then the platoon started singing cadence back. I'm like, what the hell? What's going on? They're like, well, you got to sing back, or saluting in PT gear. That I used to get in trouble for that all the time, because in the Marines you don't salute in PT gear. And so yeah, it was weird. But after my 3 weeks at Benny, I got stationed at Fort Bragg. And at Fort Bragg, I ended up working behind General McNeil at the EOC. And as a E4, the Army did demote me to specialist, because I would have been a staff sergeant if I stayed in the Corps. And so yeah, I was like, okay, I'll take it. You know, going back in. But working with them at the EOC, I was able to see on a grand scale what I used to do in the Marine Corps with, you know, the transportation agency, and then see how, like, I was scrubbing tip fits for like a year and a half. And as a specialist working at the EOC with the like Fort Bragg's general sitting in the chair in front of you, and just we built a rapport where there are a lot of officers like, you know, what's so special about this guy, you know. And I thought I was going to do that and do that the whole time I was there at the Army. And then 9/11. And so there's a lot of people that I think you hear stories about when they signed up for the military because of 9/11, or in support of our efforts. And a lot of people kind of overlook the people who were in the service when it happened, because we were kind of accustomed to a way of life of just kind of a 9 to 5. Even though we signed up to always be ready, you didn't expect it. And so
Right.
that really changed. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with you. It changed a lot.
Oh, Oh yeah, oh yeah. It was crazy. And so yeah, after that, I mean, General McNeil is the one who told me I was going back to my unit. I was attached to my unit, and I went to Iraq, and I was in the initial assault in March in 2003, March 18th, and yeah, that was another life changing experience. That was the point where I knew if I came back, I was going to make it my mission in life to do music. And the funniest thing, yesterday I did a show in Falcon Heights, and there was a St. Paul sheriff there, and he was also in the Army. He was in First Cav, and he was like, "Man, you look real familiar." And after I played the gig, he asked me, "Did I sing at a talent show that we had at Frosty's in Camp Doha before we went before we went across the border?" And he was like, "You sang like a gospel song. You said your mom used to sing it all the time, and you played the piano and sang." He was like, "You won like third place. You should have got first place." And that blew my mind because that's exactly what happened. And you know what they did? They gave me a glass trophy. How you gonna give a soldier a glass trophy in in Kuwait?
Careful mailing that home. Well, we do have to
What?
stop for a minute for a commercial break from
Okay.
Soul Kitchen. Come back, we're going to talk a little bit about water power and ecology.
Oh yeah.
Come and get a taste of Korea at Grand Forks' newest dining sensation, Soul Kitchen in the Grand Cities Mall. Dine in or take out handcrafted dishes featuring astonishing and unique flavors with just the right levels of spiciness to suit all tastes. At Soul Kitchen, each meal is custom made to your order by superb soul-trained chefs. Open for dinner Tuesday through Friday from 4:30 to 8, Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sundays 11 to 6, and closed Mondays. Discover what's been missing from your dining adventures with consistent 5-star reviews from satisfied customers. Soul Kitchen, right across from Rumor Sports Bar and Grill in the Grand Cities Mall. Stop in and discover the best-kept dining secret in Grand Forks.
March on, march on. Hey, march on. We got the soldier on.
Welcome back, everybody. So we do have a couple viewers on right now. We've got Uncle Polly. He used to play keyboard for little Bobby back in the day. And we've got oh, and Paul, thanks for your service. And then we've got Ricky
Oh,
from Rick's
thanks for your
Repair
appreciation.
here in Macintosh. If you need your winter tires put on, give them a call, Rick's Repair. So why don't we hear a little bit about water power and how that started?
Water Power was a group of brothers that one was like 8 years older than his younger brother. The younger brother was like, I think he just turned 30. And it was just weird seeing how he was, like 7 or 8 years younger than me. So I was the age of his older brother, but he was really wise. And his brother was a rapper, and he said they used to put him on the table when he was like 5, and he could like recite everybody's verse. So they called him Recite These. And so it used to be it used to be like 10 people. They called it the Wu-Tang Clan of DC. And then everybody kind of went off their separate way. And he always wanted to be a part of Water Power. That was one of the last groups that I was producing for. And so he was like, "Hey, why don't we salvage it?" And there was another guy who was from Chicago named Virgil Brooks. We called him Primo the Cinematic. And myself, Keyez, we did an album called The Insignificance of Language. And it was supposed to be a satire album, talking about what at that point we called mumble rap when Lil Wayne first started. Now I don't even know what they're I can even hear mumbling better than I can hear what's going on now. But yeah, we we made jokes and we rapped about it. But I did all the music, and Reed did a lot of the drum beats because in production I always have the tendency of giving it a live feel. So, they're trying to rap and then there'll be a drum break or a fill. And then it's like, oh, I'll get the jazz hands going and stuff. So he would do the drums and I would do all the other music. And then we would all write our own verses. And we we made so many, like we were making like 10 to 15 songs a day. And so that just got me in the mode of just production, and not just saying I have this many songs in the archives, but making sure that it was quality songs that if somebody wanted to deal with the essentials, then we had something for them. We had music for anybody that wanted music, or we would make music and cater it specifically to them. And then when we started doing our own albums, because, people were trying to, I guess, use us without paying, but then saying that they thought we were a band and they were part of it or whatever. So we just decided to continue with Water Power as a trio. And then Primo decided that he was a little too old to be rapping with us because he was, about 10 years older than us. And so
like
I remember he was like, well, he was like, man, I'm already the 40-year-old rapper. And so, yeah, when he left, it was just Ree and myself. And yeah, we just kept doing music. When I moved back to Minnesota, we still were, kind of doing the same thing, video chatting and doing sessions, but we kind of lost touch. But we always talked about getting the 10 back, or as much or as many as we can, and do like a little reunion tour and see, a whole bunch of overweight Black men, some bald, some shorter than they used to be, get up and rap over really dope jazz beats. Like, yeah, I like a lot of our music is up on waterpowerhour.bandcamp.com. But it's one of my most proud works of music, just because it was a lot of work and love put into the music, and then equal amount of love and work and attention put into the lyrics. And so it's just it's one of those projects that, from time to time, we had a SMHYAS, Shake My Head, You Ain't, and then there's a title track, The Insignificance of Language. And the song, we said, slop, bam, do, bop, dee, bop, ba, da, da. We're not saying anything, but people keep singing along. And that was the hit song that everybody loved. And it was just,
like
it was, yeah, I mean, you just compare Water Power to Hanson. I have to tell everybody that. But it was the first.
and
No, go
what
ahead.
was the other one? The I forget who that.
Oh, yeah,
Because
yeah. And so many catchy songs and just like you don't even know who the artist is. You said what?
So your music can also be found on Jazz 88 and Eventbrite, correct? Jazz 88 and Eventbrite. Is your stuff still on there?
I didn't. Yeah, it is on. I think I have some stuff on YouTube, but I keep forgetting what I had, and had stuff on SoundCloud as well. I also had another hat. I did a lot of production under the name The Neckologist instead of Keyez. I always kept Keyez as kind of like my artist name. But yeah, I've done a lot of work for a lot of different artists. The last album was an EDM artist, and that was an interesting voyage.
What advice
But
would you
yeah,
give to the youth? How do we get the youth into music? What advice would you give to an aspiring young person?
to really dig into your own creativity. Don't try to sound like anybody else. Try to sound your unique way that you are. If you end up sounding like somebody else, but you're true to your craft and how you sound, then it's still just as beautiful. But there's just it seems like everybody is falling in love with the status of being famous and being rich, and they're bypassing the experience of music and what it can do and the healing purposes and just all the things that you can benefit from being a performer in music. That if you take the time to, like I tell the Ryte Vybe Trybe, if we take the time to appreciate the moment we have for the show, it'll always be magical, because we'll never get this crowd. Even if we do the same exact show, we'll never get this crowd. And even if we got the same exact crowd, we'll never get this exact time and the exact emotions that we have as we're playing these notes. And if people just take that time, young and old, to just remember that, then I think it'll revive the live music scene, because it's dying and it's sad.
It is.
Because DJs are, of course,
We
cheaper.
do everything
but
we can to keep music alive. Like, that's why I still
yeah,
keep doing this. That's why I do the other one. Like, the other one's mostly pop culture, but we get musicians on there too. Go see live music,
uh-huh.
people. Go buy the merch. Buy the hard copies. That's how you keep these musicians going. I mean, you can stream all you want, but the hard copies are where it's at. We've got about 2 minutes
Yes.
left. Want to talk about
Okay.
Ryte Vybe Trybe and where people can see you live? Do you have any gigs coming up? Well then, I guess he cut out again. Well, we only had about 60 seconds left until our well, it's too bad I didn't get to say goodbye, because that guy is really cool. We did have a good time when he was here. We talked about our history in the military, and I'm sure you can go online and find. Yes, please. Where can they find you online and find your schedule? Well, I think we might just have to say goodbye to Mr. Williams. Sorry about that. It looks like it wasn't me with the bad connection tonight. Imagine that. So stay tuned after Water Power Hour at .bandcamp.com. Good job, Jeremy. This guy, I tell you what. Water Power yeah. Well, let's go ahead and do our little breakaway, and then we'll get back with Ken Heath.
March on, march on, march on. Hey, march on. We got the soldier on.
Hello there.
I was just gonna say, if that was the only bad thing that happened on the show tonight, that would be that. That's just awesome. You usually hit one little snag, but well, how are you doing tonight, Ken?
Doing well, Momma T. Hey, this is your Marine Corps show. Keyez, Semper Fi, brother.
Cool. I did not know that, because I was in the Army.
Well, somebody had to be.
Yeah, well, he was in the he said he went in the Army after he got out of the Corps.
A lot of people do that. It's the Marine Corps is a smaller service, and they keep it small for a reason. And sometimes they just get to the point where it's like, this is going to be your job. And if you want to go further than that and you want to make a retirement career out of it, sometimes you have to make a lateral move into another service to keep doing that.
Well, I'm going to say, first of all, welcome to the show, DJ Ken. This is Ken Keith. Where are you located right now?
I'm in Las Vegas.
Awesome.
Las
And
Vegas.
what are you doing out there?
As little as possible for as much as I can get.
Aren't we all? Tell me a little about your career in the music industry and how you got into it. I won't ask the big question just yet.
Well, when we met on Renegade Radio, I started off saying I was born as a poor black child. Steve Martin line. There was always radio. There was just always radio. My mom was involved in radio. Several uncles were involved in radio. I actually had an uncle who was a sergeant in the Marine Corps who was on the base radio station at Camp Pendleton. And I used to go down there and sit in the studio with him. And, you know, my dad was a Marine during World War II. And so that's how I also ended up in the Marines. But just a whole bunch of fortuitous things were happening in my early teenage time. And I decided that DJing would be a fun thing to do with my life. And so I did. And
To talk about, tell me about your upbringing. Like, where did you grow up? Like,
oh, Southern California. I was born actually 3 months premature in 1963, which was pretty much a death sentence. But I lived, obviously, and raised in the Disneyland area, just about 10 miles north of Disneyland. And
what did your parents do for a living?
my mother was a grocery checker, and she just, that's what she did. She dealt with people all the time, and she loved doing it. My biological father wasn't in the picture after the first couple of years. My dad, who took over the job, was a bail bondsman, a private investigator. He'd been in police with Norfolk PD. He rode motorcycles for them.
And who was it that, like, your family, who do you think was your biggest supporter as far as going into the DJ business? Did you have any inspirations?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was inspired by a lot of things when I was, you know, a teen. WKRP was on television. Then a movie came out in the theaters called FM that was about radio stations in Los Angeles. And then through a fortuitous marriage, my uncle married Wolman Jack's niece, and making him my Uncle Bob. And so I thought, wow, you know, there's all this DJ stuff going on. And then a friend of mine was having an event at her church, and she invited me. And the guys who were playing the music just sucked. I mean, they were horrible. It was 3 guys, and they couldn't mix through from one song to another. One of them was talking while the other 2 tried to figure out how to cue up a record.
Oh, jeez.
And I asked her, I said, who's in charge of hiring the entertainment next year? She goes, I am. I said, well, you know, quit paying these chumps. I'll do it. She goes, have you ever done it before? I said, no, but I know I can do better than them.
Because it doesn't take much.
Yeah, if this is the bar, I could lay on the ground and roll over it. It was, and so she said, okay, great. Now, almost an entire year went by, and I went to school with her. I saw her all the time, but she calls me up. She goes, okay, so we're all ready for the dance, right? I was like, yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, we're cool. And hung up the phone, called a friend of mine. Dude, we need equipment. We need records. We need everything right now. So we borrowed equipment. We didn't have a mixer. Our microphone was plugged into a guitar amp. Our speakers were homemade.
Oh, jeez.
And we spent more than what we made buying all this stuff to build the system.
And how did it sound?
Well, you know, on Pink Floyd, The Wall, where that helicopter comes in?
Yeah.
We use that for sound check. And it sounded good enough that the janitor was walking in the front door and turned around and went out and looked to see where the helicopter was.
Awesome.
And then I just started, you know, going, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And then I went in the Marines. They sent me over to Japan. I bought some equipment over there, which I still have, and it still works great. And just kept going and going and going. I've been sponsored by several companies. I've done research and development for DJ products. been fortunate to do a lot of things.
Well, tell me about some of the different places you've DJ'd for, some of the different venues, and I'm sure you've got some stories.
Well, right after our first child was born, we moved to San Diego, and being just, the broke young couple we were, we tried to go out to dinner once a month. And my wife took me to a place called the Corvette Diner. And they had a DJ booth. Nobody was in it that night, but there was a DJ booth. There's a 50s diner. It's still there. It's in a new location, but it is still there in San Diego. And I was sitting there, and I told her, I said, I'm going to play in that booth. I said, I don't know how, but I'm going to play in that booth.
And I think we have to save the rest of your story for after our commercial break, which I completely forgot about until I told you, tell me a long story. So let's cut away real quick. We're going to hear a little about Renegade Radio, the other podcast I'm on, and Sacred Skin Tattoo.
Okay.
Your body is sacred. Your body's artwork should be too. Tattoos of a memory of a loved one, an event, or a personal work of art just for you. Sacred Skin Studio is now open in the Grand Cities Mall. High quality and alluring tattoos, custom designs, and make sure to ask about the $50 flash tattoo sale. Sacred Skin Studio has a large selection of body jewelry, clothing, accessories, and a large variety of specialty goods too. And all of September, buy one, get one half off on all body jewelry. Your body is sacred. Treat it that way. Sacred Skin Studio in the Grand Cities Mall across from Rumor Sports Bar and Casino. Call today for your appointment, 701-610-6011, or check out sacredskinmobile at gmail.com.
You don't get this stuff from Howard Stern Show. You don't get this stuff from anything but Renegade Radio.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm still here with Ken Heath, and he was about to tell us how he ended up being in that 50s diner, how he ended up getting in behind that DJ booth.
Well, I was working for an audiovisual company at the time, and just kept looking at the paper. And one day there was an ad, and it didn't say it was for them, but I called it, and it turned out it was for them. And so I went and auditioned, and I knew the music well, and I knew how to work the equipment. And so they hired me, and slowly I got more and more hours. When I was first there, I was Shotgun Tom Kelly was one of the DJs there. And they had just opened another diner called the T-Bird Diner up north in Escondido. And so they wanted to use Tom's famousness to get people to the new restaurant. So they moved him up there, and then I took over more hours at the Corvette Diner, and I ended up working there for a few years. Really, really great place, great people to work for. And that kind of just got me into doing a lot of oldies. And I started doing a lot of car shows. Ended up relocating to Idaho, where I got involved with a drive-in burger joint, and we started doing cruise nights there every Saturday night. And I was doing other car shows and things, so I've got arguably the largest collection of vehicle-related songs of anybody you've ever met. I can play car specific songs for 9.5 days without repeating a track.
I bet.
And that's because people used to come up, oh, I bet you don't have this song. And most of the time I did. But if I didn't, I got it before the next week. I had a friend in San Diego who had a record store, Gary's Record Exchange, and Record Paradise, I'm sorry. And I would just call him and go, find me this song. And he would find it for me. And so I would have it the next week. And I'd see these people walking in and I'd go, cue it up, play it. And they're like, where'd you get that? I thought my mom bought the only copy of our record. Yeah.
So, tell me about the most difficult challenge facing the DJ industry today.
I would have to say that it's a combination of factors. Technology has made it very, very easy for people to think they're much better than they are. There's a lot of people doing professional events, weddings, things like that, really matter, who shouldn't be. They don't have the experience. They don't have the knowledge, because they didn't come up from the bottom. They just kind of magically appeared. Streaming is a terrible, horrible thing. Not only do musicians not make any money off their own music, but you're depending on something you can't control. All my music is my music. I bought it. I paid for it. It's on my hard drive. I can play it anytime I want. And if something happens to the hard drive, I have the CD. I have the hard copy. And a lot of people are bypassing that. They don't have a knowledge of the music because they just go stream whatever they want. They don't have to go find it. They don't have to research it like we had to, back in the old days. I'm not saying that our way was the best, but you had to know your stuff, and that made you better. Now anybody with a laptop says they're a DJ. I know people who can't talk. Like, how are you going to do a wedding without talking? You have to introduce people. You have to, if you've ever been to a wedding, I'm not saying the DJ has to talk like this is, AM radio of the early 70s, but there's still things you have to say. You have to know how to use a microphone. And a lot of people don't.
Got to be able to get the crowd hyped up.
Well, yeah, you have to be able to communicate and do things. So I would say the ease of technology and, streaming, things like that. I support all sorts of live music things. A lot of my friends are musicians. I got involved with a documentary called The Wrecking Crew. It's a great documentary. I got involved after it had been pretty much made with the fundraising part of it, because they use all original music in it. So they had to pay just a ton of money in royalties to be able to release the film. And to do that, we went around and showed the movie and charged people and raised money and sold T-shirts and sold hats and sold things. I helped with a lot of that. If you look real carefully in the credits, my name is in there, which was a real huge surprise to me when, first premiere night, sitting there in a theater and your name scrolls by on the big screen. You're like,
it blows me away that I've got a smart that I can look up YouTube on it and I can see my face on a big screen TV. That blows my mind. I can't imagine seeing my name scrolling through credits on anything.
And the film itself is really great, but if you like seeing the interviews of these people who made all this music, the bonus disc is over 6.5 hours of interviews that they just didn't have room to put in the movie.
Wow.
It's just, it's insane the amount of interviews that they did. Denny Tedesco did an amazing job. Him and his family, his wife Susie, his brother Damon, just a phenomenal job putting together this documentary. You know, people talk about documentaries all the time, and one of the things this had, because Denny and Damon's dad was Tommy Tedesco, famous guitarist, it had heart. When he's interviewing these people, they're telling him about his dad. They're just not relating stories of this happened or that happened, or, you know, it was like, yeah, when we were there with your dad that time. And so just, it just really puts the film on a whole different level.
What kind of music do you listen to? What's on your playlist? When you go out somewhere, what is it you're playing?
Well, you know, most people are really into what was going on between the time they were 12 and about 24. That 10-year period is like where a lot of people are locked into their music. And I'm a lot like that. I mean, you know, Van Halen, Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin, a lot of stuff like that. But then there's a lot of weird stuff too that I've discovered, you know, over the years. And so you might hear some, you know, Polynesian exotica, you know, and then some comedy, you know, some Ray Stevens, some Tom Lehrer, Hayseed Dixie. Those guys are great.
Tom Lehrer, wasn't he the one that the LY song?
Yeah, he that was later on, but he did a whole lot of stuff.
Oh yeah,
even did one called "Send the Marines." That was pretty funny. One called "So Long, Mom," because he felt that if any songs were going to come out of World War III, they better write them now. And he wrote that before Vietnam. So he was doing, you know, more controversial sort of stuff way back when, before people thought it was controversial.
Didn't he do one called something like, I don't think I can say the name of that one to keep our clean rating. Sit on my face and tell me that you love me or something?
No, that was Monty Python.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
See, somebody corrected me just as it was coming out of my mouth. I was like, wait a minute, somebody told me I was wrong about that before. Who was that?
Yeah, that was Monty Python.
Monty Python. That was awesome too. So what other talents and hobbies, interests you have besides just doing the DJ thing?
Oh, I've done all manner of things. I enjoy construction when I can do it. I was injured in the Marine Corps, so I'm disabled vet. I don't get to do as much as I used to do physically.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. Firearms are fun. Just by virtue of how I started off DJing, you start off broke, you get broken gear and fix it. You know, you get what you can afford, and if something breaks, you figure out how to fix it. So I do some electronics. I build things. I'm right now restoring a 1959 Ford F-100 panel truck, and some of the cool little electronic gizmos you're going to see in it are stuff that I'm building instead of buying. Just stuff like that. Designed and installed many sound systems in cars and arcades and theaters and all kinds of stuff like that. Just have fun.
Do you do anything else with music besides DJing? You like to pick up a guitar once in a while or anything? Or
I abused a bass for a short time, really before I started DJing, and I noticed that it was really hard to keep a band together. It was really hard to get everybody to practice. It was really hard to find a place. It was just so many factors, you know, were a pain. And then I started DJing. Matter of fact, it was my guitar amp that we had the microphone plugged into. So I didn't pursue that, but every once in a while, I still have a bass guitar. it's kind of weird. I didn't have one for years, and it always felt weird. Like, why I don't have a guitar here. Why don't I have a guitar? And so I bought one, and I don't play it often, but there's just a peace of mind knowing it's there.
Yeah, yeah.
It's weird, but I'm sure there are a lot of musicians out there who understand.
You're still going out and doing live DJ shows, right?
Occasionally. I bought this house a couple of years ago, and I decided that since I was relocating and everything else, that I would sit back for a little bit and get some work done on the house, because I knew if I just came here and started working and, hit the ground running, that, be 5 years later and I'd be going, man, I still haven't done that on the house. I still haven't fixed this. I still haven't installed that. So I'm getting things done on the house before I really start bringing things back up.
So I should give people your email in case they want to book you?
Well, I still have my my website, djken.com.
Okay.
And there are email links on there. My phone number's on there. That's so funny when people go, hey, would you mind if I gave your phone number to somebody? I'm like, well, it's been on the internet for over 20 years, and I printed it up on about 10,000 cards that I've left littered coast to coast. But no, you go ahead and, keep it secret for me. Yeah.
So you got it. I didn't want to get back to this because this is about you, but
What did
you
need
got to
to know?
have some Wolman Jack stories.
Well, between meeting him and life going on and going in the service and everything else, I really didn't get to see him that often. When we were kids, he would get us some tickets to Knott's Scary Farm when he was involved in that for their Halloween shows. Saw him at some family things, and just kind of hung out and talked. It was, it's not, we didn't do any shows together or anything like that, but just got to hang out, which was really cool, because it was neat to find out that somebody that famous just sits around talking like everybody else.
So was he cool guy? What was he like? Was he funny?
Oh yeah.
Was he serious?
Yeah, he was a real funny guy. There was just always a good time when he was around. It was kind of funny, after he wrote his book, it was interesting to read the book and know more about the things he was saying in the book than he wrote in the book. Because he's talking about some of his nephews, and I'm like, yeah, I know those guys. They're my uncles. So it was
Almost as cool as name on the credits, huh?
I'm sorry?
Almost as cool as seeing your name in the credits on a movie.
Yeah, and being able to look back and the things he did and how he did things and everything else, I got a lot from it in lessons of what to do, what not to do. Just because we ended up being related, it made me pay closer attention.
So,
it's like you might like a band, but when you meet a member of the band, now all of a sudden you've got a tighter connection. You like their music more. And, it was kind of like that. I was like, DJing could be a pretty cool thing. And then, hung out and saw him a few times and here and there with family things and everything else. I was like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. And it took about 30 years before anybody in my family quit asking me when I was going to get a real job.
I'm getting paid, aren't I?
DJs and musicians have that in common. No matter how you get, everyone's going, when are you going to get a real job?
You don't do it for the money. And speaking of which, I don't do this for the money either. So I do have an endpoint at this.
Oh, fine. End your show. See if I care. Stay on schedule.
I'll see you tomorrow. Are you going to be on Renegade Radio tomorrow? Because we're going to do a quick thing here. Keyez Williams did tell us, oh yeah, Renegade Radio tomorrow. And then we've got Keyez upcoming shows there. The Ryte Vybe Trybe at Whitey's Old Town Saloon Wednesday at 9, and Origami Uptown Thursdays at 8 p.m. And then Renegade Radio was Robbie V tomorrow, son of Bobby V. If you remember who that is, if you don't, then you better look him up, or you must be in your 20s. And Jay David. But Ken, I just wanted to thank you for being on the show tonight. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the interview. I wanted to thank you for your service as well. And thank you for the audience and all my viewers and listeners out there. For more buzz with Momma T on your Facebook feed, like, comment, follow, share. Be sure to catch us live on Facebook on the Little Bobby Buzz page every Sunday at 5 p.m. Tune in to Grand Forks Best Source every Tuesday at 7. Today's episode is www.littlebobbybuzz.com for all our previous episodes. Have a great week and stay blessed. Today's episode is sponsored in part by Grand Forks Best Source. They're a cutting-edge local media broadcasting studio with captivating shows, on-location event coverage, and unparalleled advertising opportunities. Grand Forks Best Source has become a haven for podcasters like me seeking to bring their visions alive. If you're a podcaster looking for studio or platform, or a local business seeking to advertise, go ahead and email Paul at local@gfbestsource.com. You can call him at 701-740-9337, or you can go to their website that's listed on your screen there, gfbestsource.com. Tell them Momma T sent you.